rules and things like that. But it's going to be exciting, and it's an opportunity for not only players but also coaches. As soon as the word came out that I got the job, I mean, my phone was blowing up nonstop from guys, that want to continue to coach and develop as coaches. So even though it's not a developmental league, it gives guys an opportunity. When I was young in the league, the NFL Europe was around, and we would always be sent to watch a week of practice in their training camp. And you'd see guys like Kurt Warner, different guys that, a lot of those players ended up making it to the NFL. So it gives guys that maybe feel like they're out of an opportunity to play professional football and develop their skill and talent.
And I know a lot of people doesn't know that Reggie White, Jim Kelly never came from that league. I think a lot of people never knew about that.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I knew it because, and at that time, again, they were targeting, players right out of the draft, and spending a lot of money. It's not going to be like that early, I don't think, by any means. But we're going to be looking for young, talented players that maybe they're not eligible for the NFL draft yet, but they're really good players. The USFL is going to give them a free opportunity, all coaches and players, to get their bachelor's degree if they do the work, to get their master's. I think that's an awesome thing. I mean, because you got some guys that, for whatever reason, aren't able to get that done. And if you're getting that opportunity for free, and again, you got to do the work. But I think that's a great thing that they're doing.
And speaking of Kurt Warner, you coached him. You was an offensive coordinator in Arizona. You say you had Larry Fitzgerald, Anquan Bolden, Edgar James. Like, describe what was that moment like, especially back in 2007 when y'all was not 2000. It was 2007, 2008. Y'all was 9-7, but y'all still managed to like make it to the Super. Y'all made a incredible run to the Super Bowl. Like, describe that season was like the whole time.
It was unbelievable because Arizona had never done it. They hadn't won a division. I think they'd been in one playoff game in their entire existence in Arizona. And you just, things started to fall into place. I knew we had good players. We had a bunch of young players also, but, Larry and Kurt and Anquan, we had a guy named Steve Breston from Michigan, and in that year, we had 3 receivers have 1,000 yards. And at that time, it had only been done one other time by Indianapolis and Marvin Harrison in that group. So, we were not a real running team. We kind of threw the ball to run, but Kurt Warner, who everybody thought was washed up, I'd sit at practice when he was a backup to Matt Leinart and say, wait a minute, this guy's unbelievable, and he and I would have conversation, and he'd say, what I have to do to get on the field again. And I said, protect the football and I'll stand on the table for you. And that's really what happened. And once he got in there, look out. And then down the stretch, Larry Fitzgerald just took the whole team on his back and carried us almost to the promised land.
And what was crazy? Like, you had 2 receivers at 1,000 yards receiving, 1,000 receiving yards, and that's when like Larry Fitzgerald became Larry Fitzgerald. Like, was that like probably like one of the best, probably like 1-2 combo that could have been?
Well, the three of them, Steve Breston, who's not a guy that gets a lot. I mean, we had 3 guys with over 1,000, but Larry transformed. He was already a great receiver. Make no mistake about that. I mean, at Pitt, he was a phenom. And growing up in Pittsburgh, I paid attention. My dad played at Pitt, but one of the things that when I got there, I recognized was he had 100+ catches, but he was only averaging one and a half yards after the catch. So, I spent time with him. One of our first days together, I said, fall down. I gave him a football and I said, fall down on the weight room floor. And I took out, I had a yardstick or a measuring stick ready to go. And I said, just falling down, you're getting 3 yards. So if you can make this run after catch turn into 5 or 6 yards, that 1,400 yards you have is going to become 1,600 yards. And his eyes kind of lit up. And from that day forward, I mean, one of our first practices before that occurred, when has got such great hands, but he caught a ball in practice and pitched it to a DB, and I'm like, what? Your run after catch was 1 yard. How are you ever going to practice running after the catch if you're pitching it to a DB? So from that point forward, man, Larry Fitzgerald, you hear about Jerry Rice and stuff, but every ball he caught, he ran and finished to the end zone, every single one. And I think that year he averaged 6.5 yards after the catch, 7, something like that. But he just a phenomenal person, phenomenal player to be around. And the combination of Anquan and Steve and Kurt delivering the football to him really was just a powerful, powerful combination.
And when you was in the league, you had T.O., Terry Glenn, Jason Witten, and Keyshawn Johnson. Describe what was the difference between that group from Dallas and the group from Arizona.
Well, I had Keyshawn Johnson with the Jets, when we went to the championship game, and then I got him again with Dallas. Keyshawn was just a big, tough guy. I've said it forever. If you were playing pickup in the parking lot and you had to pick a guy, you'd pick him because he's going to be down and dirty. He's going to block. Yeah, you can throw him a slant. He's going to get 15 yards. And he was just a prideful player that would do any of the dirty work you asked him to do. But at the same time, in our run to the championship game in you probably weren't even born, 1998.
97.
Yeah, so you were a baby, but we had the Broncos and John Elway beat in Mile High, and then we turned the ball over and let a kick hit the ground, a couple kicks hit the ground, and ended up losing. They ended up winning the Super Bowl, but Keyshawn was such a huge part of that. Dwayne Bowe with Kansas City, I just saw. I'd kind of forgotten about the stats, but I mean, we had Matt Castle as the quarterback, who is not an elite quarterback by any means, but he's a sufficient quarterback. And Dwayne Bowe scored 15 touchdowns and had 1,200 yards or something like that, 70-something catches. I mean, that's 15 touchdowns as a receiver is a big year. I mean, there's not a lot of guys that reach that mark. So, he was another great one that I had, but when you get to Larry and Anquan was the down and dirty guy. He's the one, you'd put him in Wildcat, you'd have him block a defensive end, do things like that, but he'd catch every ball, tough, run after catch, and big situational plays. That's the guy you wanted to get the ball to. And then you had Larry, that at that time was a little more outside the numbers guy. The biggest thing with Kurt was convincing him to throw it to him when he was covered, because Kurt threw the ball so well, he could put it in the spot, and Larry wasn't not going to come down with it. So red zone, big plays outside the numbers. I mean, he did it all, so just, and then to get, I know AB's had a little bit of trouble here lately, but, he put up bigger numbers than all of them for a couple years that I was with him, and nobody worked harder, and he really could do it all, inside, outside, run after catch. A determined guy that, 1,800 yards in the NFL and 12, 13 touchdowns. It's hard to do.
And while he was at Pittsburgh, do you feel like, and you had Le'Veon Bell, and he was big when he kept doing probably the most patient running back you probably ever seen. Describe it, we use the offensive coordinator. Describe that feeling when y'all had a run play, but he was so patient in the backfield for 5 seconds.
It takes a little getting used to. You're standing on the sideline, and we got Mike Munchak his second year. Mike Munchak's the best offensive line coach in the league, in my opinion. But the first couple games, I can hear Mike in my headset saying, hit it, hit it, hit it. I'm like, just be patient, watch. And the linemen figured it out. They knew to be patient on their blocks. And he just played peekaboo with whoever those linebackers were. He really was phenomenal. That was probably the most complete team that I've been a part of. We could run the ball for a ton of yards. We could throw it for a ton of yards. And we were one of the top offenses, and we had a really good quarterback in Ben.
And I know y'all was probably one of the best explosive offense in the league as well, right?
Yeah, we were right up there at the top. but each game would be a little different. We would game plan and say, all right, this game we're probably running it a bunch. This game we're probably throwing it a bunch. But when you can do both, it's fun to play offensive football.
And I'm gonna ask you like two more questions. So during the league, you was a receiver and offensive coordinator, head coach. Who's your top 5 defense that you probably had a hard time with all your career?
New England always. Just they do such a great job with coverage. Coach Belichick is a master at coverage disguise and making you think one thing and another thing's happening. You were worn out by the end of the week, just practicing, getting ready, and then playing the game. We played the 2000 Ravens with the Jets, and we had to play them the last game of the year to make it. It was Christmas Eve, I believe, and we had to win to get in. And we had 560 yards of offense on what is arguably one of the best defenses in the history of the NFL. I mean, you could say the 76 Steelers, the 85 Bears, and the 2000 Ravens. And we went up and down the field. Unfortunately, we turned it over a few times, but that defense with Ray Lewis and that group was a beast. But we did some different things. We were one of the first teams then to go no huddle and empty everybody out of the backfield. And when we kept their big guys on the field and got them tired, and we went up and down the field. So that was one of the best. The Belichick in New England year in and year out, when I had to play the Steelers with Troy Polamalu and James Ferrier and Lawrence Timmons and Brett Kiesel and Hampton, and I mean that was Ike cornerback Ike. But he's one of my good friends too. But when you played them and Troy was on the field, that was another group that you could never relax for a minute. I mean, Dick LeBeau was the coordinator. They were as good as anybody you'd play. And that's why that Super Bowl was such a great game, because they were the top defense, we were the top offense. And it took us a little while to get going, but we took it to them and had the lead. When Larry scored on the big play, we had the lead with 2 minutes and whatever left. And unfortunately, they went down the field and made one more play than us.
And I'm glad you came on. I want to ask you about the game for this weekend, the Chiefs versus Bills. Who do you have winning, and what do you think about that game coming up?
If I had to pick one to watch, that would be the one. If I could only watch one, I'm watching that game, because I'm a big Josh Allen fan. What he did last week in frigid temperatures, was a perfect game. May have been close, one of the greatest games ever played in the playoffs. They're a really good team. They got a good defense. He's a monster out there, because he can run it, he can throw it, he can extend the play. He's hard to deal with. And now you're talking about the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Kelsey and that whole group, and they got to go into Arrowhead. So if the game were in Buffalo, I'd lean heavy towards Buffalo. It being in Arrowhead, my former Chiefs fans won't like it. I still think the Bills will find a way to pull it out.
But one more question though. Now, the last one. What do you think about today's game? More passing lead, spread out. You probably hear about running game, but not. It's more about RPO, but a lot of RPOs will end up being passing. So tell you about that scheme a lot, but more passing now.
Great for football. I mean, it makes it fun to watch. I grew up in football. I just watched the catch game with Dwight Clark and Joe Montana. They replayed it on NFL Network the other day, and I laid there and watched the whole thing. But it was two backs, a run, and a cloud of dust. They made some plays in the passing game, but it was about being physical, and I love that brand of football. I still believe, unless you just have one of the best quarterbacks in the league, especially this time of year, you better be able to run the football a little bit. But to watch the game now is so much more exciting for the fans, and with the passing and a little more of the spread. I don't think the NFL will ever become college, where it's just spread out the whole time, no huddle. You just can't sustain against these big guys on defense. They're too good, too big, too fast.